The Algorithms of Tomorrow, Chapter 1, The Shattered Screen. Leo stood in the middle of a crowded city square, watching the world around him dissolve into chaos. Billboards flickered with trending hashtags, pushing waves of outrage and misinformation. Faces were glued to phones, fingers scrolling endlessly, as if reality itself had shrunk into the palm of their hands. Conversations were no longer shared with people next to them, but with avatars and comment sections in the digital void. Social media had morphed into something darker, something far more dangerous. Leo had seen it firsthand, the way algorithms twisted minds, how lies spread faster than truth, and how society's fracture lines deepened every day. The final straw came when his younger sister, caught in an online conspiracy, ran away, consumed by the toxic blend of fear and anger that platforms like Instatide and FaceSpace amplified. She vanished into a world of shadows, and Leo knew, then and there, he had to act. Chapter 2, The Call to Action. Leo, a tech-savvy young man with a history degree, never envisioned himself changing the world. He was just trying to make sense of it. But when social media became a global battleground, he decided to dig deeper. What he discovered shocked him: corporations fueling division for profit, nations using platforms to wage covert digital wars, and algorithms that prioritized engagement over the truth. Armed with this knowledge, Leo vowed to challenge the system. But how could one person stand against the giants of tech? His first step was clear. He needed to understand how media laws of the past worked, what had kept television, radio, and newspapers in check. And how could those same principles be applied to a world ruled by social media? Leo spent months in libraries and archives, reading up on broadcasting regulations, media law, and historical precedents. He tracked down legal experts, whistleblowers from the tech world, and activists who had fought similar battles. Each piece of information pushed him closer to a vision. What if social media was regulated like the news and entertainment industries of old? What if it had to operate in the public interest? Chapter 3, The First Step. Leo knew the journey wouldn't be easy. His first step was a petition, but not just any petition. He hacked together an online campaign that spread through underground forums and digital communities fed up with the status quo. The Algorithms of Tomorrow, it was called a manifesto demanding transparency, accountability, and ethical algorithms. The message caught fire, reaching activists, journalists, and everyday people who had lost loved ones to the dark side of the web. But the tech giants fought back. Leo's accounts were banned, his manifesto labeled as misinformation by the very platforms he sought to change. Government officials, deep in the pockets of Silicon Valley lobbyists, dismissed him as an idealist. However, not everyone was deaf to his cause. A senator from his home state, Margaret Dawson, saw potential in his idea and invited him to meet. Chapter 4, The Secret Within. The senator's office was nestled in the heart of the Capitol, far from the tech meccas Leo had spent months railing against. Dawson, a sharp-eyed woman with a reputation for cutting through political jargon, was intrigued by Leo's vision. She had witnessed the damage social media had done in her own campaigns, voters manipulated by false ads, town halls turned into battlegrounds by anonymous trolls. But she knew changing the law would take more than a good idea. It would take proof, evidence that the algorithms themselves were fueling destruction. Leo needed to get inside the belly of the beast. And so, Dawson helped him get a job at CoreNet, the world's largest social media conglomerate. Armed with a fake identity and his knowledge of tech, Leo infiltrated the company, seeking the one thing that could turn the TD away to expose how the algorithms manipulated millions for profit. Chapter 5, The Deep Code Weeks Past. Leo learned the inner workings of CoreNet, befriended programmers, and dug into the company's hidden files. What he found chilled him to the bone: an internal document detailing how algorithms were designed to maximize user engagement by pushing extreme content. The more divisive, the better. It was no accident. CoreNet's profits were tied to the chaos its platform created. But getting this information out wasn't going to be easy. Security was tight, and every keystroke he made inside CoreNet was monitored. Leo devised a plan to smuggle the data out, but just as he was about to execute it, he discovered something worse. The algorithms weren't just about engagement. They were being manipulated by rogue states to destabilize governments, including his own. Chapter 6, The Final Battle. The race was on. Leo had the evidence, but Cornet was onto him. His last few days at the company were a blur of paranoia and close calls. With the data hidden on a secure drive, Leo escaped and delivered it to Senator Dawson. Together, they released the information to the public through every remaining independent media outlet they could find. The world reacted with outrage. Protests erupted globally, demanding justice and change. Governments that had been complacent finally had the push they needed. Social media was no longer just a place for fun memes and updates, as it had become a battleground for truth and control. In the following months, sweeping regulations were passed, treating social media like the regulated broadcasts of old. Algorithms were reined in, designed to promote factual content and balance. Misinformation, once rampant, became harder to spread. The world didn't change overnight, but for the first time in years, it felt like the tides were turning. Epilogue. A New Horizon, Leo stood on the steps of the Capitol, watching as lawmakers signed the final bill into law. It wasn't perfect. There would always be loopholes and fights to be won. But for the first time in years, people had a chance to reclaim the truth. And for Leo, that was worth every sacrifice. He never found his sister. The world she had disappeared into was too vast, too shadowed. But as he watched the world begin to heal, he held on to hope. Maybe one day, she would return to a world no longer built on lies.